Welcome to my channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos. The alien woman would die if she did not mate with a human man within a week. The sand on Virex 9 wasn't supposed to be pink. Kaden had seen a lot of weird stuff in his time. Acid rain that smelled like lavender, lightning that struck sideways, even a sentient toaster that tried to marry him once. But pink sand? That was a first. He kicked a chunk of it aside with a grunt, muttering something about aliens and their obsession with dramatic planets. The wind howled like a drunk opera singer, and the sky flickered with static where the atmosphere tore under magnetic stress. The old mining dome he called home buzzed at the edges, its aging force field holding back the chaos by sheer stubbornness and rusted bolts. Kaden didn't expect visitors. Not here. Not now. Not ever. That's why the perimeter alarm going off made him drop his wrench and swear loudly twice in two different dialects, one of them extinct. He checked the screen. One life form, humanoid, not native, definitely not local. Fantastic, he muttered. More space Jehovah's. He zipped up his exosuit, grabbed his plasma rifle, not because he planned to use it, but because it made him look meaner, and stepped outside. She was already close by the time he spotted her, dragging one foot behind the other, like her legs hadn't received the memo about walking. Her figure was lean, upright, and wrong. She moved with the precision of someone who had read a manual on how to be human and decided to freelance most of it. Her ears were long, like could hear gossip from a different continent long, and swept back over dark hair matted with dust. Her skin glowed faintly beneath the grime, too smooth to be natural, too perfect to trust. She collapsed about 10 feet from him. Kaden stood over her, chewing the inside of his cheek. "You break it, you bought it," he said, nudging her with the rifle. She groaned. "Ah, still alive. Shame." He wasn't a monster. He sighed, bent down, and slung her over his shoulder with a grunt. She weighed less than she looked, which was suspicious in its own right. Probably hollow organs. Aliens were weird. Inside, he dropped her onto the metal bunk and flicked on the med scanner. It hummed, beeped, and then displayed a diagram of her internals that looked like someone had doodled over a human blueprint with crayons and question marks. The red warning icons multiplied like rabbits. Critical failure of neural lattice integrity? What the hell is that? You don't even have a spleen. Her eyes fluttered open. Green, sharp, scanning. Like she was running background checks on every molecule of air. "Human," she rasped. "Debatable," Kaden said, arms crossed. "I need..." She took a breath, then another. "Time. Explanation." "No rush," he said. "We've got, at least 3 hours before the next tectonic hiccup buries this place in sand and disappointment." She sat up slowly, wincing. "I'm Seris. I was part of a diplomatic convoy. Crash. Biosuit compromised. Internal systems degrading." "You're leaking exposition. You might want to plug that." Her eyes narrowed. "This is serious. So is my hangover, but you don't see me making it everyone's problem." She blinked at him, confused. "I do not detect elevated blood toxicity or hepatic strain." "It's a joke," he said. "Old Earth humor, very advanced. You wouldn't get it." "I get it." Her tone was deadpan. "You're insufferable." He grinned. "Now we're talking." She looked around the room. Metal walls, patched with duct tape and passive-aggressive notes to himself like, "Do not rewire this again, you moron." Her face tightened. "This is your dwelling? Home sweet hermit hole? You're welcome. You live here alone?" "By choice," he said. "Well, mostly. Technically by exile, but let's not get caught up in the poetry." She placed her hand to her temple, winced again. "I require assistance." "Okay, now you're just being needy." "My species enters systemic failure under certain conditions. We have evolved a neural synchronization dependency with compatible species during periods of biological instability." He stared at her. "That sounded dangerously close to technobabble. I must mate with a human male within 7 standard cycles or I will die." There was a pause. A long one. Kaden blinked. "I'm sorry, I thought you just said, I must mate with a human male." "Nope, I heard you the first time. Just needed a moment to pretend I didn't." Seris was perfectly serious. No blush, no hesitation, just blunt, impending death logic. "I don't do charity," Kaden said, "or interspecies bonding, especially not with emissaries from a species that tried to reprogram my pancreas with nanites during peace talks. That was a different delegation. Still your people. I am not asking for emotional attachment," she said. "This is not a courtship. It is survival." Well, forgive me if I like to be wooed before I become someone's life support system. She stood or tried to. Her knees buckled and he caught her by reflex. Her skin was warm, too warm. A subtle, glowing pattern traced itself beneath her collarbone. He looked away quickly, muttering, "Great, now she's got tattoos that look like circuit diagrams. Definitely not sexy. You are remarkably immature for someone over 40. I'm 39 and a half. Don't round me up like I'm expired milk." They were close now. Her breath was steadying, though her pulse flickered like a faulty capacitor. She looked up at him, unreadable. "I don't want your affection, Kaden. I want your biology." He pulled back. "You really know how to make a guy feel special." There was a rumble in the distance, tectonic plates reminding them they weren't alone on this miserable rock. Kaden helped her to a chair, handed her a bottle of rehydration serum he'd flavored with citrus because he hated himself, and turned to check the external sensors. "Look," he said, "found me, or why the universe thinks I'm the designated alien stress relief center. But if you're going to stay here for the next week, you follow my rules. I am dying, not vacationing. Rule 1, he continued, ignoring her. No touching my coffee maker. It has a personality and it bites. Rule 2, no using words like neural entrainment before breakfast. Rule 3, if you explode, clean it up." She stared at him like he was an unsolvable puzzle. "Understood. And for the record," he added, settling into his chair with a long sigh, "if you start glowing or sprouting tentacles, I'm going to have questions. I do not sprout tentacles." "Well, that's disappointing." She shook her head, muttering in her native language. The translation implant in his ear caught enough to recognize sarcasm. She was either calling him functionally deranged or delightfully tragic. Either way, it sounded like the beginning of a very bad week. Kaden woke up to the unmistakable sound of humming. Not the comforting hum of a well-behaved power core or the idle rumble of an autobrewer, but actual humming. A melody if you squinted at it sideways with both ears shut. He sat up on his bunk and groaned. "Nope, absolutely not. I don't do mornings, and I definitely don't do musical aliens." In the adjacent chamber, Seris stood in front of the hydroponics unit, eyebrows furrowed at a wilted stalk of genetically modified spinach. She was poking it gently, as though hoping it might negotiate its way back to life. "I was attempting to encourage growth through vibrational frequency," she said, not turning around. "That's not humming. That's plant harassment." She turned, arms crossed. "It responded better than your nutritional paste did. I'm fairly certain it growled at me." "That's just the flavor." Kaden shuffled over, opened the food dispenser and scowled into it. "It's designed to lower morale so you don't notice the rest of your life's gone to hell. I am beginning to appreciate the psychological complexity of your species. Don't dig too deep. We're mostly caffeine and unresolved trauma." They ate in silence for a few minutes, Kaden stabbing at his protein block like it owed him money, Seris sipping some algae-infused broth she'd hacked together using the outpost's questionable ingredients and her even more questionable survival training. "Your immune system is irregular," she said finally. "You scanned me in my sleep?" "I needed to confirm compatibility for the procedure." "You mean sex. You can say the word. It won't combust the oxygen supply." She tilted her head. "I was trying to be clinical." "Well, congratulations. You've medically murdered romance." "I wasn't aware it was breathing." He rubbed his face. "You know, for someone whose species designed diplomatic AI interfaces, your bedside manner is like a rusty spoon." "My bedside is not where I require you." He nearly choked on his block. She blinked. That was not a euphemism. "Good, because nothing says arousal like slow cellular decomposition." Seris stood. Her movements were slow, fluid. The faint glow beneath her skin flickered occasionally, like a failing circuit. Her ears drooped slightly. He'd noticed they did that when her energy dipped, which made her look like a depressed elf. "We're going to need to boost your systems," Kaden said. "And no, I don't mean the mating thing, yet." "I am listening. There's a half-dead relay tower in Sector 18. Old terraformer controls. If its fusion node is still intact, we can rig it into your stabilizer." "Is the journey dangerous?" "Oh, tremendously. Local weather patterns are as stable as my last relationship. Also, there might be scavenger drones." "Drones?" "Yeah, leftovers from the old mining corp, half-sentient, paranoid, and with all the social grace of a caffeinated raccoon. I will prepare." You say that like it doesn't involve duct tape and swearing. They suited up? Seris wore a composite suit he'd patched together from old scout gear and questionable alien fabrics she'd pulled from her emergency capsule. Kaden strapped his rifle to his back and double-checked the atmospheric filters. As they stepped outside, the wind greeted them like an angry god in a bad mood. Dust storm activity was low, but visibility flickered every few steps. "I miss stairs," Seris muttered. "What?" "Nothing. I was remembering the embassy gardens. The ones with gravity trees. I used to sit on the branches upside down and file reports. That's either poetic or completely insane." "Yes!" 2 hours into the trek, the first drone appeared. Spherical, metallic, and clearly having an existential crisis. Its targeting system scanned them, paused, then announced in a cheerful voice, "Unauthorized biomass detected. Recommended response, mild violence." Kaden fired a warning shot. The drone replied with a stream of foam darts, which hit Seris squarely in the chest and exploded in a cloud of glitter. Kaden blinked. "Did it just sparkle you?" "I am insulted." She disabled it to its propulsion unit. It crashed, whining, "You were my favorite intruders." They walked the rest of the way in silence, save for Kaden occasionally snorting to himself. The relay tower looked like someone had built a skyscraper out of regrets. Most of it had collapsed, but the lower generator bay remained intact. Seris immediately set to work interfacing with the power core, her fingers moving in patterns Kaden couldn't follow. "This is old tech," she muttered. "Carbon mesh fibers, polarized inputs. It's like trying to bake using only sarcasm." "Hey, that's my specialty." She ignored him. After several tense minutes, the node came online. A steady pulse of energy flowed into the stabilizer unit she'd mounted to her spine. Her breathing evened. The glow returned. "I feel less like a dying data crystal," she said. "Fantastic. Maybe now you'll stop reorganizing my storage shelves." "I was optimizing your chaos. You touched the coffee beans. That's a war crime." As they packed up to return, Seris looked at him, longer than usual. Her face was unreadable, which, to be fair, was its usual setting. "You don't hate me," she said. "I never said I did. You act like you do." He shrugged. "I act like a lot of things. Keeps people confused." "Why help me then?" "Because as much as I pretend otherwise, I'm not built to let someone fall apart right in front of me. Especially not someone who makes fun of my food and has ears big enough to pick up pirate radio." She smiled, just barely. "Thank you." "Don't get used to it." "I won't." The wind howled again. Behind them, the relay tower began to hum a low, strange tune. Seris tilted her head, listening. "I think it's still singing." "Great. First you hum at plants, now ancient machinery's humming at us. I'm surrounded by musical weirdos." She smirked. "We'll make a chorus out of you yet." Over my tone-deaf body, they turned back toward the outpost, the sky above them beginning to flicker with signs of another magnetic storm. Time was still running out, but for now, she was stable. And Kaden? Kaden was starting to realize that survival might not be the only thing at stake. Kaden stood in front of the mirror and stared hard at himself. There was dust in his hair, a new scar on his neck, and a question in his eyes that he didn't like. "Don't fall for the alien," he told his reflection. "Rule number 1, never trust anyone who can outglow your backup generator." The mirror didn't answer, which was both comforting and disappointing. In the control bay, Seris was rewiring a section of the atmospheric regulator with surgical precision and alarming speed. Wires danced between her fingers like obedient snakes, and she only paused once, to sneeze. It sounded like a soft hiccup. "I enhanced the filter system," she said without looking up. The air was 7% heavier than standard. Also, there was a small pocket of methane behind panels. "That was not methane," Kaden muttered. "It was not me," she said quickly. "Fine, blame the system." Classic diplomat move. "You're the one living in a biohazard shoebox. It's called ambiance." She paused her work and tapped a panel. A small hologram of her internal diagnostics appeared, and Kaden leaned over to peek. "Still glowing," he said. "So that's good. I assume that means no dying for the next 12 hours? 20, she said, if I don't overexert myself. Guess we'll save the backflips and interpretive dance for tomorrow then." She closed the panel and stood. Her movements were still cautious, but steadier than before. The stabilizer on her spine emitted a low hum. "I had dreams," she said. "Was I in them?" "Yes." He blinked. Sorry? You were attempting to cook something using a flamethrower and a live eel. That actually tracks. I was laughing. I don't remember laughing in a dream before. He looked at her, then away. Probably a malfunction. Side effect of sarcasm. Or just you. They fell into a brief silence, and then the outpost lights flickered. Kaden cursed and ran a systems check. Power fluctuation in subgrid 7, probably the reactor having another tantrum. I will assist. I'll do it. You stay put. You're still, she raised an eyebrow, moderately dying. They descended into the maintenance shaft together anyway, because Seris didn't take orders well, and Kaden didn't bother insisting. The reactor core was old, really old, like written in assembly language old. It purred and grumbled like a cranky pet. You talk to it? Seris asked. Only when I'm lonely. So, often, he glared. Yes. They reset the magnetic stabilizers, which involved hitting it with a wrench and chanting a few chosen insults. The lights steadied. I found something, she said suddenly, pointing to a crate half buried under debris. Kaden pulled it out and frowned. That's from the original Virex 9 science core. Pre-collapse. Inside were fragmented data pads, old field notes, and one perfectly intact spherical drone, about the size of a melon. It blinked once. Hello, it chirped. I'm Module 9. How long was I asleep? Kaden stepped back. Oh, fantastic. A talking beach ball. I am an assistant node for xenobiological observation. Do you require passive-aggressive commentary and unsolicited advice? Yes, Seris said instantly. No, Kaden said at the same time. Module 9 hovered between them, beeping happily. Wonderful. Conflict. I'll log this under primitive mating rituals. Kaden groaned. You're going back in the crate. Nonsense. I shall accompany you and record everything. This is my directive. Seris looked intrigued. Can you process medical data? Absolutely. I also make an excellent cup of tea. Would you like a haiku? Later, she said. Haikus are mandatory. Kaden dragged the drone out of the shaft by its lanyard. Back in the main chamber, the three of them sat awkwardly while Module 9 recited poems to the hydroponic spinach. I'm going to disable it, Kaden said. You're not. I might. Let him speak, she said. He doesn't have lips. He has heart. The lights flickered again. Great, Kaden muttered. The reactor's in love with the drone now. It's only a matter of time before they elope and leave us to suffocate. Later that night, Kaden sat outside the dome watching the storm roll in. Magnetic waves shimmered along the sky like a broken aurora. Seris joined him, wrapped in a thermal cloak. You think this planet will survive? She asked. Not for long, just like us. She nodded. Entropy comes for everything. You make that sound poetic. I don't mean to. He passed her a flask. She sniffed it. This smells like corrosion. It's tea. She sipped it. It tastes like guilt. Still tea. They sat in silence. Module 9 hovered in the doorway, humming something suspiciously close to a lullaby. I was bred for diplomacy, Seris said, not dependence. My people designed me to negotiate. We didn't factor in failure. Everyone fails, Kaden said. You just have to fail stylishly. I'm not good at asking for help. You didn't ask. You crash-landed, passed out in front of me, then announced your biological countdown like it was a meeting agenda. I did, didn't I? He looked at her. Seris, if we do this thing, this bond, it's not just physical, is it? No. And it doesn't go away? No. That's a lot of pressure for a guy who keeps forgetting which sock goes on which foot. She smiled faintly. I'm not asking for certainty, just presence. He leaned back. I'm pretty good at existing awkwardly in close proximity. Consider me qualified. She didn't look away. The moment stretched. Not romantic, not heavy, just true. Module 9 interrupted. Should I play something moody? Absolutely not, they said. They stayed like that for a while, the stars bending slightly at the horizon as another storm crept toward them. Still breathing, still arguing, still alive. For now, it was enough. The alarm blared at 600, which was Kaden's least favorite time of day. Actually, all times of day were tied for last place, but 600 had a special kind of betrayal to it. He slapped the console until it went quiet, then dragged himself out of bed like a reanimated fossil. Seris was already up. She sat cross-legged on the floor with wires wrapped around her arms and neck, eyes half closed, humming low frequencies into a diagnostic drone that seemed to be enjoying it a little too much. You dating that thing now? Kaden asked, scratching his chin. Because I gotta tell you, I think it's way too into your voice. The drone responds better to harmonics than direct commands. I'm recalibrating its sensors for long-range pulse scanning. Right, so foreplay. It works, she said without looking up. Well, so does yelling at it and threatening to smash it with a wrench. That's your answer to everything. It's versatile. He went to check the external sensors. The storm they'd spotted on the horizon 2 nights ago was accelerating. Not crawling in, not ambling. It was sprinting toward them like it had an appointment to ruin everything. Seris looked at the same data from across the room. Storm front velocity, 320 kilometers per hour. Projected impact in 8 hours. Great, Kaden said. Just enough time to finish breakfast and die violently. You said this outpost had subsurface bunkers. Technically, they're sealed under 3 meters of rock, locked by an obsolete security AI that thinks it's Napoleon. That sounds made up? I wish it were. He led her down through the access corridors into the old mining levels. Module 9 floated behind them, playing dramatic music that Kaden repeatedly told it to stop. You can't tell me this is necessary, Kaden grumbled. This AI is a relic. It once declared war on a shovel. The bunker's power grid could shield us for days, Seris said. I will handle the AI. Kaden raised an eyebrow. You're going to outwit a megalomaniac toaster? I have degrees in cyber diplomacy. And yet you still ended up here with me. Somewhere, your professors are weeping. The door to the bunker loomed ahead, reinforced with enough alloy to survive a small asteroid, assuming the asteroid was polite. A faint blue light flickered above it. Kaden cleared his throat. Napoleon, it's me. Kaden, we've got a guest and a planet-killer storm incoming. Can we come in? Only generals may enter, the AI replied crisply. You are a deserter and she is not on the registry. She's a diplomat, not French. Seris stepped forward. Allow me. She tapped a control panel and began streaming a series of encoded messages through the interface. Complex, elegant, and laced with diplomatic override tags. The AI processed for several seconds. Welcome, Maréchal said. You outrank this degenerate. Thank you, Seris said politely. Hey, Kaden muttered. Degenerate's a bit much? I shower. Once a week, Module 9 chimed. The bunker door opened with a hiss. Inside, everything was sealed and silent. Lights flickered on, revealing a chamber lined with cryopods, old weapons lockers, and an untouched stash of real coffee beans that made Kaden's heart do something suspiciously close to flutter. We are staying here, Seris said, already accessing the central terminal. Sensors indicate the storm will last approximately 36 hours. Perfect, Kaden said. Nothing bonds people faster than being trapped underground with vintage tech and looming death. You say that like it's a bad thing. They set up camp. Seris configured the environmental controls while Kaden tested the old defense systems, which still worked, albeit with the enthusiasm of a bored intern. Later, they sat across from each other, a single heating coil between them, and passed the time by teaching Module 9 human idioms. Kick the bucket, Kaden said, means dying. Why would humans kick containers as part of a death ritual? The drone asked. They wouldn't, Seris said. It's metaphorical. So, a metaphorical death bucket. Exactly, Kaden said. Now do break a leg. Violent encouragement? Your language is a hazard, Kaden chuckled. Seris allowed herself a small smile. As hours passed, the temperature outside plummeted. Inside, the systems hummed. Seris sat near the diagnostics display, her hands glowing faintly as she interfaced with her stabilizer. Kaden watched her quietly. She hadn't collapsed in over a day, but he could see the strain, micro-tremors in her fingers, an occasional flicker in her eye like a skipped frame in a video file. How long do we really have? He asked. She hesitated. 17 hours. Maybe 18, stabilizers at 43%. And after that, my neural structure will begin to degrade. Memory first, then motor function. You mean you'll forget who I am before you collapse? Possibly. Well, on the bright side, you won't remember how annoying I am. I find your annoyance comforting. That might be the nicest insult I've ever received. She leaned back, exhaled. Kaden, I don't want to die thinking I failed. My mission, my people, myself. You haven't failed, he said. You're alive. You found me. You survived this hellhole longer than most trained soldiers. I didn't complete the bonding. I didn't fulfill the biological directive. You know, he said, voice quieter now, you make it sound like a contract, a technicality. But we both know it's not just that. She looked at him, guarded. What do you mean? I mean, if this was just survival, you wouldn't care what I thought of you, and I wouldn't care if you glitched out in the middle of an argument." She didn't respond. "I'm not good at this," he said. "Whatever this is, feelings, connections. My last relationship ended when my ex joined a cult that worshiped black holes. Literally. Statistically rare," she said. "Yeah, lucky me." The silence stretched again, heavier now, but not cold. Seris shifted closer. "If we initiate the bond, it's permanent. My species doesn't bond lightly. It's neural, emotional, lifelong." "And if I agree," Kaden said, "I stop being just a cranky ex-merc living in a radioactive shoebox. I become part of something I can't walk away from." "Yes?" He sighed. "I hate decisions." "I know." He looked at her. She looked at him. Module 9 hovered nearby and whispered, "Shall I cue romantic lighting?" "Don't you dare," they said in unison. Outside, the storm began to pound the bunker. Inside, the world had narrowed to a breath, a heartbeat, and the unspoken understanding that the next choice would change everything. The power flickered 3 times in the bunker, then stayed steady. Kaden stared like it might blink back at him. It didn't. It was a screen. Still, it had the smugness of something that knew more than it let on. Seris sat across from him, fingers interlaced, glowing faintly like someone had stuffed a bioluminescent jellyfish under her skin. She didn't look afraid. She looked tired, worn around the edges like a well-used tool. Still precise, still sharp, just softer. Module 9 hovered between them, scanning the air for what it described as tense emotional humidity. "Do not interrupt," Seris warned the drone. "Too late," Kaden muttered. They hadn't spoken for a full hour. Not really. A few questions about thermal systems, a shared look when the bunker's coffee reserves turned out to be mostly powdered soup mix, mislabeled by a clearly deranged logistics officer. But now, as the countdown ticked into its final hours, the silence grew dense. Kaden stood, rubbed the back of his neck, and paced. "I've faced down mercs hopped up on combat stims, flown through a solar flare in a ship held together with duct tape and panic, and once negotiated a truce between 2 crime syndicates by pretending to be their mutual god. But this," he paused, "this is terrifying." Seris tilted her head. "I can deactivate emotional resonance output if it helps." "That's not what I—" "Wait, you can do that?" "For brief periods. It's how I survived a month with the Glavian ambassador. He believed emotions were a form of fungal infection." "Well, he's not completely wrong." Kaden sat again. "Tell me what happens. After, if we bond. Our neural pathways synchronize. I become attuned to your biometrics. I will feel what you feel. Not always, but echoes. You will perceive fragments of my thought patterns, my instincts. We adapt to one another, cognitively, physically. And if we don't, I will shut down, slowly. My mind first, my body next. It will not be poetic." He exhaled. "That's the thing. I don't want this to be about death." "It isn't. It's about choosing life." They looked at each other for a moment that felt both too long and not long enough. "Okay," he said finally. "Let's do it." Module 9 twirled in celebration, playing what suspiciously resembled wedding bells. "Stop that," Kaden said. "Let him celebrate," Seris said. "He's waited longer than either of us." They moved to the center of the chamber. Seris pressed her hand to her stabilizer and extended her other toward Kaden. He took it. Her skin was warm, almost too warm. Her fingers tightened around his. There was a soft chime, then a low, resonant hum that passed through their bodies like a tuning fork had struck the air. His breath hitched. Her pupils dilated. Her ears shimmered faintly. Neural circuits aligned. He didn't feel invaded. He felt recognized. Images flared in his head. Her childhood on a crystalline moon, training in zero-G diplomacy academies, a first failed mission that left her crying in a sterile room. In return, she saw his sister's laughter, the moment he lost her, the guilt, the endless deserts of exile. "I didn't know," she said aloud. "You weren't meant to. I'm glad I do now." The hum faded. The light dimmed. Their fingers didn't let go. A few hours later, the storm passed. The sensors showed blue skies outside, littered with debris but breathable. They surfaced slowly, blinking into the light like newly hatched regrets. The outpost stood, more or less. A few panels had blown off. One antenna was now at a 45-degree angle that Kaden declared deliberate artistic architecture. Module 9 had already begun collecting soil samples and whistling. Kaden was fairly certain the AI had become emotionally attached to the planet. They stood outside together, surveying the damage. Seris took a deep breath. She wasn't trembling anymore. How do you feel? Kaden asked. Like I have roots, she said, and wings, simultaneously, which is biologically confusing. You get used to it. A beacon lit up on the comm tower. A signal, not corporate, not automated, clean, precise. She turned to him. My people, they're close. Of course they are. They'll want to extract me, debrief me. They might want to study you. That's fine, as long as they don't ask me to fill out forms. I draw the line at forms. They might offer you reinstatement or compensation. I'm not interested in going back. Not really. Too many memories, too many people who saw me before I was whatever this is. She reached for his hand again. You don't have to decide now. I already did, he said. When the ship arrived, sleek, silver, more whisper than engine, Seris stood beside Kaden as her delegation stepped out. A dozen faces, some familiar, some not. All surprised, a few alarmed. She raised her hand. This is Kaden. He is my bondmate. No one questioned it. Well, one aide fainted, but the others recovered admirably. Kaden offered a salute that was halfway between military respect and mild sarcasm. Later, in the ship's lounge, as Module 9 lectured a senior xenobiologist on the ethics of observational humor, Kaden sat with Seris watching Virex 9 shrink in the viewport. It's strange, he said. I thought I'd be glad to leave. You will miss it. I'll miss the weirdness. You'll have new weirdness. Good, I hate being bored. She leaned her head against his shoulder. So what now? We find somewhere quiet, somewhere with fewer storms and more coffee. And after that? We figure it out, together, one sarcastic disaster at a time. She smiled. Kaden didn't know what waited for them in the wider galaxy. He didn't know how long peace would last or if anyone would ever fully understand what bonded them. But he did know one thing with certainty. He wasn't alone anymore. And somehow, in a universe that never stopped trying to kill him, that was enough.